welcome to Europe Direct series of online interviews entitled Europe Direct, Questions and Answers on COVID-19 Vaccination. My name is Breda O'Shea from Waterford Europe Direct Information Centre, which is based in Central Library, which is right in the historical heart of Waterford City and part of Waterford City and County Libraries. So today we're going to be looking at vaccination from a European perspective, and I'm joined from Brussels by Stefan De Keersmaecker, who's European Commission Spokesperson for Health, Food Safety and Transport since December 2019. Now, Stefan has 19 years experience of working in EU institutions, so I'm very interested to be talking to him today. Welcome, Stefan, and thank you so much for taking time, to join me today. I know that you're very busy and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for being on your program. And thank you very much for your interest in this very interesting topic, I would say.
It certainly is a very topical one, isn't it? It's on everybody's lips and everybody's minds every day of the week. So, Stefan, I'm just going to start by asking you if you could tell me a little bit about the common European response to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in the beginning, we were all overtaken, obviously, by this pandemic. We have never gone through a pandemic like this. And so in the beginning, we all had to quickly adapt to what was happening. In the very beginning, the response in the European Union, in all member states and so on, was very much one of, let's do it by ourselves. We can handle it by ourselves. But very quickly, I think it became clear that if we want to handle this pandemic, we need to work together. It doesn't help that one member state is taking measures that would neutralize efforts taken by another member states. The virus doesn't know borders, not within the European Union, but also not outside the European Union. So a coordinated approach, an approach of cooperation is very important. And I think this is something that became very quickly clear. And I think the Commission has played quite an important role in that, trying to bring together the member states and trying to set up common approaches. In different areas, I'm not even yet talking about the vaccines, but for instance, when you look at transport, the idea of ensuring green lanes. Green lanes meaning that transport between member states should remain possible. We all rely very heavily on transport from goods that come from other countries, and so we have to make sure that this transport can continue. That's an example of something where we really needed to work together. Everything which has to do with border controls and so on. So lots of areas where working together is simply crucial to make sure that we can tackle it. And then I think a very important next step which was taken was the step of purchasing and trying to find vaccine developers that could develop and produce vaccines, because in the end, what we need is vaccines. And so this was also, this vaccine strategy that was developed with the Commission and the member states is a nice example, I think, of cooperation between member states and the Commission. Rather than having each member state negotiate with the many different vaccine developers which are out there, the idea was, let's work together, let's do it together. And then we have the negotiation power of the whole European Union behind us. We represent 450 million citizens. We represent 27 markets. So that put us in a much better position, which led to the conclusion of contracts with, in the meantime, 6 companies having a good terms and conditions, I think, for us. So I think the key word that we have learned is let's work together and coordinate our efforts.
Great. Yeah, so the whole solidarity and I suppose the unified coordination of it appears to have been very important just to get it right from the get-go. And I'm just going to imagine then, Stefan, that you must have had very stringent criteria as well, just when, determining which vaccine you were going to purchase.
These criteria, we have listed them in our vaccine strategy. There's a wide list of criteria, all very relevant and important, such as, for instance, what is the technology that is used for the production of this vaccine? What is the budget necessary to produce this vaccine? What would be the price of this vaccine? What would be the liability rules? When in case something turns wrong, what are the reliability rules? But also very important, what is the production capacity of this company? It was always very important for us that there is sufficient production capacity in the European Union to make sure that we have production in the European Union and that you have quicker deliveries of vaccines. So there is a whole range of criteria that have all been taken into account during our negotiations with interested vaccine developers.
Okay, and just thinking about that then, in your opinion, what would have been the biggest logistical challenges in the distribution of the vaccines to the member states?
Well, each vaccine comes with its own specificities. An AstraZeneca vaccine is not the same thing as a BioNTech Pfizer vaccine. For the BioNTech Pfizer, for instance, you need cooling infrastructure. You need to be able to cool it at minus 70 degrees. So that comes with its own specific logistical challenges, I would say. So each vaccine is different. I think what has become clear, however, is that we have concluded, I think, very good contracts. It worked well working together with the different member states, allowed us to agree on good terms and conditions, but something that has turned out to be a challenge, not just in the European Union, but everywhere in the world, is to the development of sufficient production capacity, to make sure that there's sufficient production that can be delivered quickly enough. For some companies, you know that we have are on ongoing discussions with AstraZeneca where there are issues with the production, as you know. This is not the case for other companies. With BioNTech Pfizer, for instance, the production and deliveries are working quite well according to plan. But it is true that production capacity is maybe one of the main challenges. And this is also one of the reasons why the Commission established a task force dedicated to further beefing up this production capacity, seeing how we can bring companies together to work together and so on.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, everything seems to have had to be done at lightning speed, really, would you say? Yeah.
That is true. And this is something that is sometimes forgotten. When we started this EU vaccine strategy, we were working in an area of uncertainty. We did not know there was no certainty whatsoever that any of the vaccines for which we had a contract would actually turn out to be successful, would receive the green light of EMA. So there is this huge uncertainty, also linked to the speed. We put in our vaccine strategy, I think we said that we wanted to develop a vaccine within 12 to 18 months, whilst it can take easily 5 to 10 years to develop a vaccine. And when you look at it, we managed to do it in 10 months. So yes, speed was very important. But I would like to stress, however, that we always said from the beginning that speed should not come at the expense of security and safety. This is why it was so important for us that all these vaccines go through an assessment of the European Medicines Agency to make sure that we have effective and safe vaccines that people can have trust in.
Yes, that was a question I was going to ask you, Stefan, actually, because, you know, I mean, it was fantastic that it was developed so quickly. It really was an answer to everybody's problems. But I was going to ask you about the regulations that the EU have in place just to ensure both the safety and effectiveness of the vaccines.
No, what we tried to I should not say we, because the assessment of the vaccine is done by the European Medicines Agency. It's an independent agency. What EMA did was to, on the one hand, speed up the procedures. What can be done quicker was done quicker, but never at the expense of the safety and the security assessment. The criteria to assess these vaccines were exactly the same as for any other vaccine. So we have not, or EMA has not followed a lighter assessment or said, no, we're not going to check this and that because we need to be fast. No, EMA continued to follow a very strict, thorough assessment. What EMA tried to do, however, was to speed up those steps that could be speed up. To give you an example, EMA did what we call a rolling review of the vaccines. That basically means that before the file of the company is complete, EMA already starts assessing the data that are already available. And as soon as a company has additional data, it sends it to EMA so that EMA can take a look at it. And then when the file is complete, the company then can introduce a request for a market authorization. But then because of all the work that EMA has already done in the context of the rolling review, it can make its assessment much more quickly. And so EMA has taken several steps to speed up the process whilst fully respecting the importance of having a very thorough assessment of the safety and effectiveness aspects of the vaccines.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Yeah, I mean, I can see that it has to be slow. You know, this is so detrimental to everybody's health and to just taking control of, you know, the virus as well. So while it has to be slow, it also has to be safe. And I think that's very important. And just in light of the temporary suspension of AstraZeneca vaccination at the moment in some countries, including Ireland, where does the Commission stand on being certain of its safety at the moment?
I think the Commission stands on the side of science, in the sense that, and that's what we have always done with this with this vaccine or with other vaccines is we want to have very thorough scientific assessment. EMA did this to assess whether the vaccine could be put on the market. And now EMA is doing another assessment of these different cases that you refer to check whether its initial assessment has to be adapted or not. Let's not forget that a market authorization always comes with important monitoring obligations. So even if a vaccine is put on the market, company, EMA, member states continue to monitor the use of this vaccine. It's very important, of course. That's the case with vaccines always. And so it's this obligation of monitoring that allows EMA to further continue to further follow the use of the vaccine. But our position is in this, we need to have serious scientific assessment, and no one is better placed to do that than the European Medicines Agency.
Good. Well, we have all confidence in you and look forward to hearing the outcome of that, Stefan. When will we know, do you know?
Today there will be a meeting of the Safety Committee of EMA to go through the different elements. And on Thursday, they expect to have another meeting, a concluding meeting, where they will try to conclude and come to indeed a conclusion. EMA had already issued a preliminary opinion last week where they said that on the basis of evidence that was available at that time, there was no link between these cases and the vaccination. But of course, data continue to flow in. And so EMA continues to do the evaluation. And this is why also this week, today, and particularly on Thursday, we hope to have further insights, useful insights from EMA.
Great. And that seems to be the conclusion that other regulatory bodies are coming out with as well in other countries such as the UK. So here's hoping that is, the case. I'm sure it is. Stefan, just to ask you then, is the European Medicines Agency currently reviewing any other vaccines?
Yes. We have the vaccine of CureVac, for instance, which is being assessed by EMA. I believe it's in a rolling review. And I believe they have also launched a rolling review of the Russian vaccine, the Sputnik vaccine. But of course, these are questions that, this is work done by EMA. And if you would like to know more about this, then you would have to check with our colleagues from EMA. Again, they're an independent agency. Yeah? They work independently. And this is very important also to ensure the solidity and the soundness, I would say, of the scientific work.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that, Stefan. And just lastly, my last question really, and it's a question I think that's on everybody's lips around the world, but just looking at Ireland in particular, when do you envision that the vaccines will bring the pandemic under control? What stage would we have to be at?
We have set a target that 70% of the adult population should be vaccinated by the summer, by the end of the summer, by the summer. We believe that on the basis of the figures we have now, the provisions, the plans of the different companies, we believe that we should have the delivery of sufficient vaccines to reach that target. Of course, we continue to be in contact with the companies to make sure that these deliveries indeed take place. On the basis of the information that we have now, we believe that the 70% target should be reached. So it's a long path, it's a difficult path, it's a painful path, but we believe that we should be able to indeed reach this target. It also depends, of course, on the vaccination speed in the different member states, which in turn relies, of course, on the delivery of a sufficient number of vaccines.
Well, that's good news anyway. It's good to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that at some stage we're going to get this under control. So that's great, Stefan. Thank you very much for that. This has been a very honest and informative interview. I know you're very busy again, and just want to say I think it's incredibly reassuring to know that Ireland has the security of the European Commission and EMA and the solidarity of the European Union behind us during this time of such uncertainty. So on behalf of Europe Direct Ireland and Europe Direct Waterford, I just want to say thank you to yourself and to the European Commission and EMA for all of your ongoing hard work on our behalves, and just to wish you well going forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I indeed believe that the key to success is cooperation. It's as simple as that. We have to work together, and we've made some plans and suggestions to take this further. For instance, to establish an authority that would help all member states working well together on topics like this. In the meantime, however, allow me to express my gratitude for your interest in this topic. And I only have one last piece of advice: stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Stefan. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.